negotiating at 4 to 8% in San Diego County,
Right.
and has a much lower yield on what you're paying on it. So this really is a financial planning and a math problem. But I'd love to talk to your guy. By the way, I want to make a comment here. Right when we did our commercial break, we were talking. We had Marty was making the comments about Jim Robeson, our Medicare guy.
Yes.
And I have to give a personal endorsement because I've known Jim, off and on, and about once or twice a year, I have cause to talk to him. And I spoke to him just last week for my own circumstances. Now I'm at an age where I could be drawing down on Medicare, but I have great medical benefits through my employer. And once again, every year I call Jim and say, hey, what's the best bet? Let's look at my cash flow. Is this make sense? Does it not? And he very, very in plain English explains to me, why I should be doing what I'm doing and not change it. So I have to say that every time I call him, he is right on top of it and back to me like the next day. So I've got nothing, it was a commercial, but I'm backing it up and say Jim's the best.
Okay. And I totally agree. My brother had a question on Medicare, and he had done all this research, and I felt bad because he really did a lot of research. And then I asked Jim when he was on the show with me, and it was like he had the answer like really fast. And I went, oh my gosh, because I was telling my brother, you got to call Jim and ask the question. And it's like with most people, they're just really hesitant to call.
I don't get that.
Well, I think, John, I think people are afraid to get a consultation because they are afraid that they kind of feel vulnerable, and that if they do call for a free consultation, that it's not really free. It can't be. There's got to be some catch. I'm going to get put in some database, and he's going to bug me and pester me. And I'll tell you, you listeners, 100%. Okay, John and I have done this for a long time. We've both been in our industries for 3, and John even more decades than me. But I have had, one of the things as an attorney, as an estate planning attorney, I have financial planners that contact me all the time. Hey, Gary, and I've dealt with financial planners that clients of mine got really mad, and they said, why did you sick your financial planner on me? I went, what do you mean sick? Well, I called him because you recommended him, and he won't leave me alone. It's been 10 phone calls now. I told him I don't want to hear him again. I'm going to block his number. And I went, oh my gosh. So I called this guy. I said, what are you doing? He says, your client needs my product. She needs my product. I said, don't ever harass my clients. When they're ready, they will come to you. I want a consultation. And he's out of my life, man. I said, don't ever do that. So I know with you and with Jim, both of you guys, when we say free consultation, we'll analyze the situation for you. That's why we're together on this show. I do free consultations. I'll do an analysis. I'm not going to stick you with a bill and say, well, it was 10 minutes of analysis and here's my bill. John, I know you won't do that. Jim Robeson won't do that. Craig Smith, even our cybersecurity guy. It literally is we just want to take care of people. That's the whole deal. In fact,
exactly.
We've got coming up. In fact, I guess after, in a few minutes after we take a break, we actually have a gal coming in, Karen Zulo, right?
Yep.
What's she going to talk to us about?
Well, she called me here a week ago, and I've had Karen on the show several times, and she is our credit expert, debt settlement, and handles with a lot of problem situations, but credit repair or building credit or how to establish credit. So she's got a whole long list of things. And Gary and I, admittedly, we talked last week. We thought she is such a fantastic resource of information that's way out of both of our wheelhouse, with expertise, over 20 years owning her company, her corporation. So she's going to come and talk to us and give us like a little hint each week about certain things that came up. And I do know for a fact, I got an email from her several hours ago saying, hey, this happened this morning, just this morning. This is real. It's a problem that any of our listeners could face at some point in time. And she's going to share with us that has to do with cybersecurity and, people getting hacked, et cetera. So I'm going to have her share that and a couple of other minor things there as well. So that's going to be right after the 2:30 break here too. And then I have a whole handful of other things that we'll try to get to everything. There's just so much going on right now.
Yes.
It is January, and that's when all the new laws come into play. Yes. And front page of the Sunday newspaper in the business section, there was a whole article that I thought was great. It's how new real estate laws affect San Diego residents. And I did some research on that. And Gary, do you know that in this last 2 weeks, there were over 31 new real estate laws signed into law in California and covering everything from rental situations, foreclosures, and lot splits, and what you can do, what you can't do, et cetera, et cetera. So that
it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
In the tax industry, we just did a big tax update seminar called The Running Start. And this is with the California Society of Tax Consultants. And it was like 3 days. We put on these seminars talking about all the new tax laws, and the book this year on changes was huge. But what constantly happens is after you get all your education and tax season is starting, then there's 31 new laws. And how does that affect people? And that comes into play. Nowadays, John, and I know you agree with me, I don't think you should do your own taxes. I don't think you should try to do your own mortgage. I think you should do the research and then get a professional to help you with a mortgage. I just think any self-help stuff now is way too complicated. So it doesn't surprise me we have all these new laws. It doesn't surprise me that there's going to be a lot of people out there trying to interpret them and figure it out. That's why I'm glad, we have this show every day where we're trying to kind of keep ahead of that and
2 minutes.
keep people informed on what's going on. Wanted to, so as far as like keeping up with, so what is your thought, suggestions for our listeners? Like, how do you keep up with that stuff?
It's hard enough for me, and I'm inundated with it all day, every day, just trying to, stay on top of things. I do try to. It's good that we have such great resources at our company, and they do go to great lengths to educate us. And if they find something pertinent enough to the mortgage industry, they're gonna drill down deep on it and make sure that we're on top of it. So it's nice that we have resources and a whole army of individuals that if we hit a bump in the road that we can go back on. But I just tried to be as well read as I can. And it's just like, as I say to my friend who tells me all about the things he thinks are healthy for his diet and how the world works. And I said, really, Larry, when did you get your medical degree? Because I don't remember you going to medical.
1 minute.
Same thing. When did you get your MBA or your CPA or, et cetera, et cetera. So folks, do your research. Absolutely. Do some reading, become educated, but then ask a professional who does this every single day of their career, day in, day out.
And there you go. Keep listening to this show every day.
Okay.
You're listening to The Word on Wealth. We've got mortgage banker and expert John Burroughs and me, attorney Gary Quackenbush. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to keep talking to John. In fact, we're going to have a guest come in and we're going to talk about credit history, stuff like that.
30 seconds.
So hang in there. If you want a consultation with me, what we're trying to do is offer every radio listener a free consultation with me. It's free. 855-500-TRUST. That's 855-500-TRUST. I'll review your trust. If you don't have a trust, we'll talk about what estate planning is, how trusts work and all that. And we'll be able to take care of you. 855-500-TRUST. Call today. Get it done. It's important.
I already sent that email. If you check your email, the connection to you and Edwin.
All right.
Finances, business, and retirement.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters reporting as President Biden gives a news conference today. Support for the president predictably falls along party lines. House Democratic Caucus Chairman Representative Hakeem Jeffries says President Biden saved lives and achieved record job growth with his virus rescue and infrastructure packages.
Let's put some respect on Joe Biden's name. President Biden has had a very good first year under very difficult circumstances.
While Republican Kentucky Congressman James Comer says this has not been a good year for America.
Since President Biden assumed office, he has failed at every turn. All President Biden has shut down is the American people's confidence in his ability to lead us through this pandemic.
On Wall Street, the Dow down by 339 points. The NASDAQ dropped 166. This is SRN News.
Guest is on the phone.
The Word on Wealth Financial Network. Call and ask your questions about effective stewardship in your family finances, business, and retirement.
You're live.
Welcome back to The Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush and John Burroughs, mortgage banker. We have a very special guest on the line, Karen Zullo. Karen, how are you? This is Gary Quackenbush.
Hey, Gary. Hey, JB. How are you, gentlemen, today?
Doing great. Thanks for coming on the show. I was so excited when John, we email back and forth and call each other, and he says, Gary, I want to have Karen come on and explain a little bit about you. And we were just both really super excited. We're going, yes, we can't wait till 2:30 when Karen comes on the show. So John's got questions for you, and John set this all up, and I am just going to sit back and smile and enjoy this.
Okay, so we are talking with Karen Zullo, one of not only CEO and president of her Insight Credit, it's Insight Credit Group, and she agreed to give us, like, pretty much on a regular basis, a little tip of the week and such. Aside from being the quintessential professional, she's also one of my favorite people in the world. That's no secret, and my good friend. But Karen, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the first sentence from the email you sent me this morning, because I think the best way we learn is from real life circumstances. So I'll set the stage and I'll let you run with it. So this is a quote of you. So this just happened this morning, and I thought this would also be a good subject since financial crimes, fraud, and identity theft are the #1 financial crimes in the world, with a substantial increase since the beginning of the pandemic. So that being said, I'm going to let you share with the listeners tell us about that call, what happened, and what was your solution for these folks?
Absolutely. All right. So yeah, early this morning, I got what I will call an absolutely frantic call from a husband and wife who had just been, apparently someone had gotten a hold of the husband's personal and financial information, and they had gone online and applied for what are actually known as predatory loans with companies that are considered or called alternative funding companies, or those fast cash payday loan places. And these type of loans are for people really that have in general, people that have poor credit, need cash fast. There's not a lot of criteria to qualify for these loans, so it's easy money to get. And someone had somehow or another hacked into all of his personal information, and they went online and applied at several different of these loan type companies, trying to get $1,000 here, $2,000-3,000 there. And the only way the gentleman found out was all of a sudden this morning, his email started lighting up with these loan companies saying, hey, we received your application, it's under review. And 2 of the actual companies had said, we received your application, your loan's been approved, and the money has been dispersed. And
Yikes.
He's like, what? Yeah, he's like, what the heck? I didn't apply for anything. So his wife's trying to talk to me. He's in the background frantically screaming, wanting to know what can be done. So, and I will say, indeed, identity theft is a very scary situation and can be a nightmare beyond belief trying to get things resolved, which actually is one of the things that we do here at Insight Credit Group. We deal with identity theft all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, the first steps that I told them to take was to jump online to the FTC, and you can go to, I believe it's ftcidentitytheft.gov, and immediately file an identity theft report. So we have that on file. The next thing that I walked them through was contacting each of the credit bureaus and asking them to put fraud alerts on her husband's credit files. Now, the fraud alerts typically will make it much more difficult for someone to randomly try to go open up credit in his name. And typically, once you file a fraud alert with one of the bureaus, they do or are supposed to notify the other two bureaus so that the fraud alerts are placed on all three bureaus. But my suggestion is always to cover your bases and contact each of the three bureaus.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, I said, and this is the last step, honestly, is something, again, that you're doing to kind of cover your butt, but it's not going to do you a whole lot of good, believe it or not. And that is to file a police report.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I myself have been a victim of identity theft in the past. And I actually knew and had a good friend in the financial crimes department of the San Diego Police Department. And when I reached out to him, I don't want to say he laughed, but he said, sure, if you want to file a police report, go ahead. It's kind of a waste of time. It's so hard to prosecute these type of crimes. So there most likely won't be anything done via the police department, but you at least want that report on record.
Well, at least you've given due diligence to try to solve the problem. Should have come back to bite you at a later date, I would think.
Absolutely.
Correct, because oftentimes when we're dealing with the identity theft here and we do all of this for the clients as well. But when we file those FTC reports, sometimes they do come back and say, hey, submit the police report as well.
Okay.
So
that's great information, Karen. We really appreciate your input on I guess what we'll have on a regular basis, our little credit minute. I know you're a busy person for a fact, and I'm not going to take up too much more of your time, but if somebody's looking for either debt settlement, credit repair, something along this line, tell our listeners what is your mode of choice or the best way to contact you at Insight Credit Group.
Yes, thanks, JB. Yes, you can contact me via our website, which is insightcreditgroup.com. You can contact our office, which is 800-679-7172, or you can contact me directly via my cell, 619-318-9866.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much, Karen. And we'll let you go here today. And hopefully you'll still listen to the rest of the show with us. But we're going to have you back here, I think, on a pretty semi-regular basis. And I have a whole list of things that we're going to get into, how to help your kids or your teenagers build credit, working with your credit scores, how to get your scores to improve, mistakes people made, debt settlement, and bankruptcy, et cetera, et cetera. So all along those lines, thank you, credit expert Karen Zullo, and we will talk with you again soon.
JB and Gary, thank you so much. And Gary, I am going to reach out to you. I need a trust review, so we will connect later on that.
Super.
Gentlemen, have a great day, and thanks for having me.
Right.
Take care.
Thanks, Karen. You're awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks.
You know, I got to tell you, Gary,
That was
I've worked with Karen for years off and on. I've had her help a number of my clients that are, everything from minor issues or problems or getting some credit repair done or getting to the place with debt settlement. And I think that's a biggie. And of course, you know all about that kind of stuff. But when dealing with day-to-day creditors, that could be a challenge, or, collections or things like that, that things that slip through the crack. But you don't necessarily always have to dive in with both feet and just do everything that the creditor is telling you. So there's always alternatives. So on that note,
and so much of what happens is when we're busy, our lives, we fill our days. That's just the way it is. Whether you have a job or not, we fill our days. And then when you get, you're going to get a refinance, or you're going to borrow money, or you're trying to qualify for a loan or get pre-qualified, which we're going to talk about in a second. And then you have credit issues. Yeah, there's do-it-yourself stuff. You can go online, you can look it up, and there's all these things that supposedly work and all that. But my gosh, you have a life, you're busy, you should contact experts. And that's what we're trying to do on the Word on Wealth. Is like, we got people like Karen Zullo, Insight Credit Group, 800-679-7172. And she's here to help. If you can't remember Karen's contact information, just remember the show. Give John a call. He's the one that set it up, 760-944-6555, 760-944-6555. And, that's all part of what John's going to be talking to you about. If you're trying to qualify for a loan, if you're trying to qualify for a home purchase, if you're trying to see what your best options are, these are some of the resources that we have. Super good.
Okay.
I love, man, that identity theft thing. That just is awful. It really is awful because people really do that. And you just go, man, there's a really warm place laid out for people like that go out there, especially older people. Seriously.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly
My
here.
goodness.
And that is a big part of it too, because I'll let you ask the questions because I know that whole thing, why the credit's so important, and you're going to get a loan, particularly on a purchase, where that comes into play.
Now, John, I do have a question on my son, Tyler. He's actually up in Washington State, and he called me and said, Dad, I think I just want you to talk to me about getting a house. And how does the purchase work? What's the PMI, the private mortgage insurance, and how do the loans work? What's, 10% down, 20% down? How do loans work? It was very interesting. It was this whole process. And I told him, you could listen on Wednesday. I don't know if he is today, but I usually send him a copy of the show anyway. And I wanted to basically get kind of your take to my son, Tyler, what about this? What could he do kind of in advance to prepare himself so that when they do find the house they want, they're ready to just say, okay, we're qualified. We've got, we've kind of done our homework. And I want you to kind of address that, if you wouldn't mind, from the lender standpoint, from your perspective of things.
Absolutely. And because this is a deep dive on this information. So I'm going to, right after we get back from the next break, I'm going to give him about 3 or 4 bullet points that are very, very basic.
Okay.
I just did this with a good friend of mine's daughter. She's ready to buy her first home. So I'll basically tell all of our listeners and you exactly what I told her this last week of here's step 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the whole pre-approval process.
I'm super excited that you're going to do that. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Well, as you can see, resourceful we are. We had Karen Zolo of Insight Credit Group. You've got John Burroughs, mortgage banker, and me, attorney Gary Quackenbush. If you want to get a hold of our team, one way to do it is call my number, 855-500-TRUST. If you want to get a hold of me specifically regarding your estate plan, how to do an estate plan, is yours good enough? Is yours really what you want? Do you even have one? 855-500-TRUST. I'm happy to go over it with you. No charge for the initial consultation. I'll review your documents. We'll talk to you about it. 855-500-TRUST. And keeping in mind that when we talk about your house, I'm going to ask about how much you owe on it and what is your loan rate. And maybe I'm going to recommend that you talk to somebody else on our team, like John Burroughs, mortgage banker, as to whether or not it's worthy of refinancing, because those are the things that we work at all the time. So give me a call at 855-500-TRUST. If you do it today, we'll be able to get you in. Our calendar's filling up, but we can still get you in if you call soon. 855-500-TRUST.
From San Diego, this is the Word on Wealth Financial Network. Call and ask your questions about effective stewardship in your family finances, business, and retirement.
We're with Craig Smith of Borderland, your local source for cybersecurity. And Craig, what are you seeing today in terms of ransomware attacks?
Well, employers of all sizes are wondering which employee will it be? Who will be the one that clicks on that phishing email that brings my company to its knees with ransomware? Clicking on what seems like a safe email can allow hackers to load viruses, steal your passwords, and watch what you type, ultimately stealing data. And
so basically he's telling me I should never click on an email that has to do with Bass Pro Shops, is what he's telling me.
And by then, it's just too late.
I'm going to ask that about Bass Pro next time.
You should. You should.
It's like
Borderland, educate your staff. They use,
hey, look, a special offer from Cabela's. What?
Yeah, it's like, no.
Be shut down by hackers.
I only thought about that because my brother's a huge fisherman. So the amount of phishing emails he has is probably catastrophic.
Quick quote on software services that help protect you and your small business. That's
I'm not much of a, I like to hike, but I am not much of a fisherman. It's not enough active movement for me.
Yeah, I'm so patient that I'm a super good fisherman.
The Word on Wealth Financial Network. Call and ask your questions about effective stewardship in your family finances, business, and retirement.
You're live.
So what we are going to do now is John has the mic, and he is giving some advice to my son Tyler and his wife Heather about what about this getting ready to buy a home. So John's got a punch list for us. So
Okay.
let's talk about it.
Okay. First of all, I want to define the difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualified. As a loan officer, or mortgage banker, or broker, whomever you go to, credit union, bank, whomever, a pre-qualification is my opinion on a piece of paper after having a conversation with you, a detailed conversation at that. But it's just that, it's my opinion. Now, although I do run the pre-approval software in our systems, I can issue the pre-approval myself for most loans. The vast majority are go through automated underwriting systems, or AUS, and there's a multitude of them out there. Those are standard processes used nationwide in the mortgage banking industry. So Tyler and Heather come to me and they go, we want to buy a home, and what's our first step? Well, as we just had a snippet here, a section on credit, how important that is. Your credit score is a huge determining factor about your approval, and also the interest rates you might receive once you get a loan in hand. So number one step, I'm going to have a detailed conversation with the two of them. And I really do, when it's a first time buyer, and if it is a couple, I really do like to have all parties on the conversation, or in the conversation, on the phone call or the meeting, because there's just so much jargon that goes along with it, and you're not expected to understand all of those words. So I'm going to get the details, name, rank, serial number, job history, how much do you make, how long have you been living where you are, et cetera, et cetera. First thing I'm going to do at that point is then run your credit report. And that is a detailed credit report from all three major credit reporting bureaus. And it's probably the most detailed report you're ever going to see. It is a different algorithms and model than you would get if you were just applying for a credit card or a car loan. So that being said, once we have all these details, and then I'm going to ask for documentation. So Tyler, Heather, I need you to send me your W-2s from 2021. If you're an employee, I want to see the most recent pay stub that's going to show year-to-date income. If you have savings, down payment, I want to see all those assets. And this is all in writing. So I'm going to verify, trust but verify, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to verify that everything that you told me, because usually people are estimating those numbers, and I'm going to get more detailed with it.
Okay.
So we've got your credit, we've got your details, we've got documentation, and that's the key. And once I've done that, I will then complete a full loan application, which is about a 4 to 5 page documentation or a process. It only takes a matter of a few minutes once I have documentation in hand. And then I push the magic button and ask the computer to say, what do these folks look like for a projected payment or loan amount? And then step number 5, of course, if you haven't gone through all this process, these processes, if you're just out there starting the whole scenario, just plain call me. I mean, it's that simple.
Okay.
Give me a call and I'll handhold through the process. And it really doesn't take that much time. But for a first-time buyer, I'll tell Tyler and Heather both, buying your first home is kind of like eating an elephant. You're not going to do it at one sitting. So there's so much to absorb. The purchase contract what are the rules and regulations, explaining mortgage insurance if it's there, getting the approval in hand, what to expect with the process itself, what are the time frames, what do I need you to do, or more importantly, not do while you're in the process of buying a home. So there's a lot of education that goes on, and I thoroughly enjoy it because it's probably one of the most exciting times in a young adult's life. And you listeners out there that have kids and children that are coming into that age bracket too, I highly encourage you to have that conversation with them. And what better way to start your adulthood in the most responsible financial situation could be, and that's buying a house. So if you do encourage them, I have that conversation, have them give me a call, and I will handhold, I promise, throughout the entire process.
And once that's done and you say, okay, this is what you qualify for, that is actually pre-approved.
That is a pre-approval because it's backed up with the credit report, verified income and asset documentation.
2 minutes.
The approval through the standard AUS systems I just spoke of too. That on paper, then I can issue a very, very specific letter to your realtor with a property address if it's important or if it's relevant at the time. And then you can go out and start shopping. And then of course, that's when you want to get together with your realtor. You don't want to do that process, particularly the first time out by yourself. I think that's a recipe for disaster.
John, question. Is it important to go and get like this pre-approval before you even start looking?
Oh, absolutely. I think I don't know of any really good realtors out there that will even put somebody in a car to show property until they know they have taken that serious first couple of steps to be there. That makes them real. They don't have time to and the price of gasoline to haul you all over town in hopes that you're going to be able to consummate the deal once
1 minute
for accepted. So number one step, get the pre-approval in hand. Here's the good news. If you are organized, when you call, talk to me and you can scan or fax things over. I literally, given the information from folks, can have approval done in less than 1 hour, literally.
That is awesome. John, I am so glad. Okay. I am definitely going to talk to Ty. That's really cool. I mean, that was a big thing. He's been talking to different people, wants different opinions. And I think this is great. So we have our checklist. You guys are listening to The Word on Wealth, and we're here every day at 2. And when we come back, we'll talk to you tomorrow about, we're going to do Tax Day Thursday, and that's going to be tomorrow. If you want to get a hold of me for a consultation, it's 855-500-TRUST. It's 855-500-TRUST to talk to Gary for free. And you'll be on with our team on Word on Wealth. All right, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you, John. See you later. Bye.
Yeah, we had a bit of a technical snafu. That's why you heard the close here. That wasn't your fault. That was our system's fault. It didn't generate the correct